Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2 is coming up this weekend at UFC 291, and guys, today I'm going to be breaking down the fight and giving my official prediction, and I'd love to know what you guys think afterwards. I would love to know what your predictions breakdown is. Write it down in the comments, hear what I have to say, whether you agree or disagree with me. We're going to talk about that amazing matchup in just a second. Before we do, though, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's talk about this fight. Starting off with the tail of the tape, and before we get into their last 5 fights, guys, I do want to mention, of course, this is a rematch. The first time that they fought was what, like 5 years ago? It was something along those lines. It was so long ago when Justin Gaethje was still a little bit newer in the UFC, okay? They had an absolute war. Everything you would expect in this match, they had the first time. Both guys had their moments, but Dustin Poirier ended up finding a finish in the 4th round, and he looked really good doing so. So, since then, we're going to talk about their improvements. We're going to talk about everything, but let's start with the tail of the tape, like I just said. So, Dustin Poirier, his last 5 fights. You know Dustin Poirier. The story of Dustin Poirier, if he's not fighting anybody who is a champion, he's probably going to win. That's the thing. So, he had that crazy war against Dan Hooker, where he showed, like, both guys had their moments, of course. That seems to be the story of some fights with Dustin Poirier, you know what I mean? Kind of, that's why this matchup's so amazing, guys, because both guys are, like, chaos bringers, you know? It's just so much fun to watch both of them. So, Dan Hooker displayed incredible heart, technique, got the win there. Then he had those 2 fights against Conor McGregor where I don't hold this win nearly as highly as actually, to be honest with you, I hold Dan Hooker because Conor McGregor is no longer the same fighter. But then, of course, he had that loss to Charles Oliveira. Losing to Charles Oliveira, both these guys, of course, in recent times lost to Charles Oliveira and Khabib Nurmagomedov. In my opinion, you might as well race those because losing to those guys is absolutely no shame. No shame one little bit. And Dustin Poirier had his moments. Looked great, but to be honest with you, most people have their moments against Charles Oliveira before they get finished. So, my point is, I don't think, okay, this guy was on a little bit of a slouch and came back. I think, they might as well not even be on the record because most of the fighters ever just lose to them. You know what I mean? But then, he's coming off an amazing win in Michael Chandler in a fight where it went just completely as I expected it to. Both guys would have their moments. Dustin Poirier would be getting the better of most exchanges. And then he ended up finishing Michael Chandler, although I did not expect the submission coming from this. Justin Gaethje, a little bit less inactive, right? So he's coming off the life-changing performance of Tony Ferguson. Life-changing, destroyed Tony Ferguson. And the reason because this fight happened is the same reason I'm going to be making some money off betting Bobby Green. Is just because Justin Gaethje changed Tony Ferguson. Anyways, let's keep going. And then you have that little bit of a spotty record, right? You have the loss of Khabib Nurmagomedov, like I said earlier. Nothing to cry about, you know what I mean? But then he came back, got a very nice win in Michael Chandler, one of the greatest fights you will ever see in the history of the sport. Had his great moments and was a little bit of a step ahead most of the time. But of course, Justin Gaethje is a little bit more wild than Dustin Poirier, so that's something to consider. And then we also have the loss also to Charles Oliveira. And I will say Dustin Poirier did perform better against Charles Oliveira than Justin Gaethje did. Justin Gaethje just kind of got flatlined. Actually knocked down and finished. It was absolutely crazy. But anyways, after that, I was kind of on the train where most MMA fans were, where I was counting out Justin Gaethje. I was like, you know what? Maybe he lost a step. He was talking about retiring, which he was, to be honest with you. But then he decided to give it one more push to the title. And this is something we're going to talk a little bit more about in a minute. So the point is, I was counting Justin Gaethje out. I was so sure Rafael Fiziev would beat him. I bet on Fiziev to win this fight. And then Fiziev came in and couldn't do too much to Justin Gaethje. He was fast. He was looking really good in the first round, but then Justin Gaethje just put on that violence that Justin Gaethje does and just changed Rafael Fiziev's face. So both guys are coming off of a very, very nice win with some nice momentum. Taking a look at everything else, it's shockingly similar. Shockingly, you have 34 years old, both apiece. Both guys have had a lot of fights, a lot of experience against the highest level of competition. Both guys are coming into this in kind of like the same spot in their careers. Of course, both always fighting at lightweight, with Dustin Poirier a long time ago changing weights, but still, it's safe to say that both guys have been on lightweight. And then you have a surprising height difference in 2 inches of height advantage for Justin Gaethje, which I wouldn't really take that into consideration, especially since Justin Gaethje slouches over a little bit. And then you have a little bit of a reach advantage for Dustin Poirier, which is very good on his side, but then he doesn't necessarily use it too much because Dustin Poirier throws a lot of hooks. That was a big tail of the tape. Let's talk about the matchup. So guys, when talking about these two actually getting in there and matching up, I do want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that being these fighters are drastically different in this matchup than they were a long time ago. And by that, I mean the fight, it's almost like a brand new matchup because Dustin Poirier, of course, he's been the same guy. He's always been tough, always boxing heavy, always had no problems getting into a brawl, always had no problems with heart. He's the same guy. He usually wins his fights unless it's against a guy like Charles Oliveira or Khabib Nurmagomedov. Dustin Poirier has always come and fallen short, but of that, he has like kind of like the Max Holloway effect where he just destroys everybody else in his path. But Dustin Poirier is relatively the same fighter. Justin Gaethje, since the first time they fought, Justin Gaethje is an entirely new fighter because Justin Gaethje, the first time that he fought Dustin Poirier, he was a chaotic brawler. Very little technique coming in there. He just wanted to put on a show for the fans. Came in there with his amazing power, solid leg kicks, wrestling that he never used. But since then, Justin Gaethje changed his game completely. You see very, very technical chaos from him. He's finding great timing. He's finding powerful shots. He's actually landing combinations. Everything that Justin Gaethje was is amplified. And I think that's very, very important to taking into this fight because Justin Gaethje had a lot of moments in that Dustin Poirier fight. The first fight was a war. Again, like I said, both guys had their moments in that fight. And Justin Gaethje, there were times where Justin Gaethje could have potentially finished the fight if he was a little bit more technical and not running into Dustin Poirier's hooks. Maybe there's opportunity because especially Dustin Poirier likes to come in and throw those hooks. And it's not like Dustin Poirier only throws hooks, but I can very well see a scenario where Justin Gaethje slips in like one of those giant uppercuts, the ones that he landed on Chandler and so many else. You know, I just see it, man. I see it. I feel like Justin Gaethje has more options in this fight because he can bring the calculated chaos in here, but Justin Gaethje could also make this technical, just like with Rafael Fiziev. And I believe that Justin Gaethje punches harder than Dustin Poirier. I know that's like really hard to say because both guys are really, really strong and have really, really good shots. I feel like Justin Gaethje does punch a little bit harder than Dustin Poirier, maybe even like a decent amount. Justin Gaethje also has the ruthless leg kicks. Justin Gaethje has more options to win this fight than Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje is vastly improved when it comes to his fighting abilities compared to Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is taking on a new opponent. Justin Gaethje is not. That's the way I should have put it. The other thing that I think is important to consider is Justin Gaethje has been very vocal that he wants one more run at the title and he's putting everything towards it, okay? He is ready to win the title. He really wants it. He wants that shot. Dustin Poirier, if you take a look at anything Dustin Poirier is talking about, Dustin Poirier is talking about wrapping up his career. While I still do believe that he does want the title, I don't believe that's like he's nearly as hungry as he once was before the Charles Oliveira fight or the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight, okay? Dustin Poirier has been always talking about now, in recent times at least, where he's like, okay, well, I don't need to fight anymore. I've made enough money for my family. I've got the hot sauce business. I have my charity. It's all going great. I'm living life. I'm happy. I got a family. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I have a hard time really picking a guy like Dustin Poirier with that mindset to win a fight. It's the same thing about Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor wasn't the same guy once he got comfortable. Dustin Poirier is finally comfortable. Justin Gaethje is still hungry. He's vocal about wanting a title fight. He still wants more money. He still wants to do this a few more times before he's done. He wants to give it one more solid run at the title. He's hungry. He's ready to go. And I believe looking at these two mindsets is crucial when talking about a fight like this where chaos is going to come. This fight is going to be absolute fireworks, and a guy with Justin Gaethje's mentality, I feel like, will be more likely to come out on top. Dustin Poirier has amazing heart. I just question it at this point. I question his motivation. How much is he putting in a training camp? You know, that's a problem. Well, we know Justin Gaethje is going all out. Last thing I do want to talk about is this fight is at Salt Lake City. Elevation. Justin Gaethje trains at Elevation Fight Team, where he is used to this. Dustin Poirier came out a little bit early, but we've seen all those fighters last time they fought in Salt Lake City. All the fighters were hanging on the cage, going back to the corners like, like they were completely gassed. Absolutely no disrespect towards them. I'm sure they trained hard, but it's a different environment up there. Elevation Fight Team is used to this. And if I'm not mistaken, Justin Gaethje actually trains higher than Salt Lake City. It's why it's called Elevation Fight Team. I'm not 100% on that, but I believe Justin Gaethje does train at a higher elevation in Salt Lake City. So this is going to be like nothing to him. When you have a fight like Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje coming together, the chaos that will come, you will need all the cardio that you can get. Take a look at their first fight, for example. They needed that cardio. What if Dustin Poirier doesn't have it? What if he hasn't come out early enough? You need to come out and you need to do it like Fabricio Verdum did against Cain Velasquez. And I understand they didn't fight at Salt Lake City, but still, they were fighting at Elevation. He came out like 6 months before. You don't see a lot of fighters do that. And on this card, you're going to see a lot of fighters gas. You're going to see a lot of fighters like doing this at the end of the round. We've seen Dustin Poirier actually do this like at some points where he puts everything into his fights. This is going to be a problem fighting at Salt Lake City. And Justin Gaethje, this is nothing to him. I believe that this fight is almost being set up like for Justin Gaethje. Like, I'm not saying like the UFC wants Justin Gaethje to win. I'm not saying like I would imagine they don't really care about that. Maybe Dustin Poirier is even a bigger star, unless they want to set up Justin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor for the BMF or the Dustin Poirier rematch. That would be big too. But the point is, I don't think the UFC cares. I believe when I said that, I mean all the stars are kind of aligning for Justin Gaethje to have a win here. Both guys are so good at fighting. Both guys deserve the rankings. Both guys are incredible at what they do. But Justin Gaethje just has more advantages when it comes to this matchup. And that's why I'm going to pick him to win this fight. Right now, I'm kind of sitting at like 70-30 because Dustin Poirier is an absolute animal. He is incredible at what he does, but I believe Justin Gaethje has more ways to win. He has more things outside of the cage in favor of him. He'll have more motivation. I like Justin Gaethje a lot in this matchup, man. I really, really like him in this matchup. So this is where I'll leave it up to you guys. Comment down below. Give me your breakdown or prediction. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video on the screen right now. If you'd like to continue watching the Clenbat channel, there'll be 2 videos on screen for you to check out. Check them out. I think they are pretty great. I will see you either there or in the next video, guys. Take care.